Can you see my screen? Welcome to the webinar. Yep. Okay, cool.
I can see it.
Great. And in the control room here, I have next to me Zahra. Do you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone.
And she's going to be keeping track of the webinar as we go through it this evening. And we've got an hour together. So without further ado, let's see what's happening with the slides. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So there we are. Hara diagnosis is the topic of this webinar, and we're going to look at the history and development of Hara diagnosis as part of Shiatsu energy work. But let's find out a little bit about you first. We're going to try one of the features of the webinar, which is an interactive feature. We'd like you to answer this poll. So I'm going to ask Zahra to launch this poll, and we'll find out whether this is your first webinar or not. So if you'd like to just answer the poll, it's clicking out. Okay, we've got quite a lot of very experienced webinar takers on this one. Okay, do you want to share the results so we can see? There we are. Look, 71% of you have already been on a webinar, probably with us. So I won't spend too long, just quickly go through how the webinar works for those of you who it's the first time. First of all, it's very interactive. We like to make it as interactive as we can. So if you've got any questions, you'll notice on your control panel that there's a questions box here. And Zahra is going to be monitoring it through the webinar. So if you've got any questions at all, just type them in there. That's one way you can do it. The other way you can do it is to put up your hand. So you'll see a little hand picture there. If you put up your hand, that flashes onto our screen. And then if you've got a headset, we can unmute you. And you can speak to us live on the air. Hooray! Which is all very exciting. We always love that if you'd like to talk to us live. But it's better if you have a headset really, so that you can, so that you can talk. You notice that we've muted you at the moment. That's nothing personal. That's because we can't have 100 people all with all the background noise of 100 people, like, they're happening, whatever's happening within their apartment or their house coming through a line, because it would just be like one big noise. Okay, so right, so let's find out a little bit more about you. We've got 3 polls. We're going to find out what you are, whether you're a Shiatsu practitioner or a student or a teacher. So let's find out, just so that we know who we've got in the group.
Oh, it's a lot of Shiatsu practitioners.
There's a lot of Shiatsu practitioners. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Hey, great.
Okay, so let's see. Look, almost all practitioners. We've got some teachers though, 10% are teachers, and we've got 5% students. So welcome the Shiatsu students.
Hooray.
Yeah, brilliant.
Excellent.
Okay, so let's see what else we've got. Oh yeah, well, let's find out where you are. That's always interesting to find out. Let's just see how you're distributed. So Europe and Scandinavia, Asia and Africa, North America, South America and Australasia. Notice we put the UK in Europe, okay?
Yes, quite. No comment. Oh. And actually, they're nearly all from Europe and Scandinavia.
Yes, we haven't got any Australians this time, which is unusual. We usually have a few people from Australia. Okay, so there we go.
And a few North Americans. Welcome from far away. I hope you're all happy in your current political climate.
There we go. So we've got one other, which is, let's find out what your first language is. This will give an idea of whereabouts in Europe you might be from. Don't be offended if your language isn't in the list, by the way. We only had five options there. Maybe we should have put other as the last one.
Yes. More German than English.
Oh my goodness, look at this. Wow, that's a first. That is a first. Wow, we've got a very international group.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, English speakers are actually in a minority here.
Well, second.
Yeah.
Second out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Do you want to publish that, Zahara? Look at this. There's more German speakers. Look, we've got to get the German translations done. Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. We need to get Annette here doing the
First on the
translations.
list of translations.
Yeah.
Annette is there, I noticed. Hello,
She's with
Annette.
us. Oh, we could get, maybe we should get
Yeah, she's with us.
maybe we should get her to do the translation.
Yeah, on the spot.
That would throw her in.
Maybe the German speakers are particularly interested in the Hara. Who knows?
That maybe it is, yeah. Okay, a little bit about this webinar. We'll go straight into it now. Just before I start, though, we are going to get you to do some exercises later on, and you might want to just make sure you've got a pencil and paper with you, because you might like to draw what part of the exercise. So at some point, you want to nip and get a pencil and paper. This webinar is actually adapted from Module 4 of our online course, which is rocking at the moment. It's going really well. I think we launched it 6 weeks ago now, 7 weeks ago, something like that. And it's
as long as that.
yeah, really, really active. All the forums are buzzing. We've got about 100 people enrolled into the new online format that we've got, and it's just really good fun. And I noticed that we've got quite a few people who are on the course have actually come to this webinar, so that's really nice to see. Okay, so look, what we're going to do is this is what we're going to do in the next hour. We're going to make sure you know where those diagnostic zones are. We're going to do some practice on ourselves. We're going to explore the idea of palpating for Kyo and Jitsu, what that means. We're going to think a little bit about the depth of palpation, and then experiencing the Kyo Jitsu reaction. And then we're going to take it a little bit further, and we're going to scan the meridians into the field, and we're going to try and see if we can get an idea of what it might feel like to feel the Kyo Jitsu reaction in the field rather than locally in the Hara. Okay, so some of the slides have been adapted from the online course, so I hope you enjoy them. Let's get started. All right, who's this? Annette. Annette, does she really want to do it?
Good question.
Oh, we could do it if she wants to. Yeah, sure. Okay, let's make her an organizer. Yeah, unmute her and make her. Well, actually, just unmute her. It would be fine, wouldn't it? Come to think of it, can you do that? It's done, is it? Can you hear me, Annette? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Hi, Cliff.
Annette. Well. Hey, how are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. I'm just sitting here enjoying the webinar. Can you hear me? Because I don't have my headset with me. It's at home, and I'm at Dino's place at the moment, so I don't know if that would work. But
it sounds quite fine to me. Absolutely fine. Are you absolutely sure you want to work for the next hour instead of just relaxing and enjoying it?
Well, it was more than a joke. Actually, rather a joke. But I mean, I don't know. If there's more German than English, but I had no clue, that I would be doing it.
Okay, well, don't worry. You can always invoice me, Annette. Seriously, invoice me at the end.
No,
it will slow it down rather a lot, though, won't it?
Yeah, but I think we'll be fine.
At all.
Yeah, but considering we've got nearly half the people of German speakers, I think it's a great idea.
Be fun.
Yeah, but I don't know about the English and the Italian, and because it takes double time, because and I don't know, when you calculated the webinar, you probably thought of it, like going through all of this because only in one language. So
I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. Yeah. Okay. Should we try again? Let's see how it goes. Okay. Ready?
Okay. Are you serious?
Okay. Yeah. You see that now? You landed yourself in it. Okay. So if we're going to, it's going to be in English and German. Let's do this again. Okay. We're going to locate the diagnostic zones.
Okay, wir schauen uns die Hara-Diagnosezonen an, wo sie sich befinden. Maybe you should ask the people if they really want to listen to German. Maybe they don't want to, because they all speak English perfectly well.
That is the thing I was thinking, because most of the people who've come on here will be expecting to be English.
All right,
they must have pretty good English.
We'll save the German for another time. We'll do the whole thing in German and English and advertise it as such then. That gives you a bit of a break. Let's do that.
I mean,
Michelle has her hand up.
maybe really people don't want it because they don't need it, because the
Yeah,
ones who sign
that's right.
probably
Yeah.
English. But you could ask. You can make another poll, but I don't know. If
I've got a great idea though. What we'll do is we'll make you an organizer, and you can look, and then they can type the questions in German if they want to, and then you can translate them if we get questions in. Should we do that?
That's a good idea.
That's a really good idea.
I'd be happy to do that if that helps.
Yeah,
but,
that's cool. Yeah, okay, let's do that just in case, because sometimes people feel happier about, asking questions in their native language, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's all. I'll get Zahara to do that. Yeah, should we could you do that? Make her an organizer or a panelist? Yeah. Okay, good. So let's continue then. Oh, that's all very exciting. You see how spontaneous everything is here. Okay, look, here we go. We're going to locate. Yeah. Okay, we're going to locate.
You're going to put me on mute again, I guess.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
we will. Yeah, Zahara's just doing it now. She'll put you on mute and she'll make you an organizer, and then you'll be able to see the questions coming in, and then if necessary, you can translate them to us. Okay. Cool. Okay, great. Wow, there we are. You see what such friendly international friends here, isn't this brilliant? Right. Okay, so let's start off by locating the zones. Okay, and Diana and I were experimenting with this earlier on, and we decided the only way to do it really is if you have to lean back in your chair, and we're going to. If you lean back in your chair, should be able to feel your hara, which is what I'm doing now. Okay, and this is just to double check you know exactly where the zones are. You can see the picture there. Okay, and first thing you want to do is make sure you know where your sternum is, where your rib cage is, where your hips are, and where the top of your pubic bone is, and that gives you the border to the border of the hara. Okay, find where your navel is. Okay, and the important thing when you're finding the zones on the hara is that they are proportional. So obviously, if you're long and thin or wide or whatever, it doesn't really make any difference because it's all done by proportioning. Okay, so let's just see if you can trace these areas. So we'll trace the heart area to see if you can make a shape for that. And then we're going to go over to the gallbladder, which is on your right, by the way, because that's facing you, that picture. Okay, and then the stomach. And then we go to triple heater and liver. Now you should be halfway down the ribs by now. And then if you go a bit further out with both your hands, and you should just feel the floating rib just by where your fingers are, just around that area. That's the lung diagnostic area. Okay, so what you do is you divide up the ribs into 3 sections there. Okay, then we go back to heart and find your navel again. And if you go halfway between the bottom of the sternum and the navel, that's going to be the heart protector area. So you can feel that area there. Okay, and then if you place your hand around just around your navel, that's the spleen area. Okay, so now let's find the kidney and bladder. So we need to go slightly outside of the spleen area, and you should be able to feel like a kind of horseshoe shape. The lower part of the kidney is exactly halfway between the navel and the top of the pubic bone. So that's how you find that. So if you find that first, find your navel, find the top of your pubic bone, and then place your fingertips there, and then you'll be able to go round, just going around the outside of the spleen area, and you'll find that that's the kidney. Now, when you get to the top of it, you'll find that you're just around the lower part of the heart protector area. That's how you find where you are. Okay. And now if you go down more towards the pubic bone and find the energy feeling of the bladder, then come round in a wider horseshoe shape around the outside of the abdominal muscles, you'll get the bladder area. You see, you notice that when you get to the top of it, you're going to be near the liver and the triple heater areas, further out the kidney. Okay. Another thing to remember is there are no gaps between any of the areas. So if you find you've got big gaps between where you think the areas are, then they're not big enough, basically. They're designed to be the size of a hand, okay? And then finally, we've got large intestine. That's right by the hip, just on the inside of the hip. And now, dun, 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 we have the small intestine. This is the most commonly mislocated area. Most people palpate it much too high. Just try this. Take the whole length of the hip bone. So it's the whole length of the large intestine area kind of thing. Just where the hip bone, where you can feel the edge of the pubic bone, and then the ASIS, the little bit of the hip that sticks out. So you've got the whole length of the hip. You divide that into a half. So you take the midpoint, put your finger there, and then place your finger on the navel, and then join up the dots. So you've got a diagonal line that goes up towards the navel. Right, I'll just show you, just across here like this. Yeah. So most people, or a lot of people anyway, that I've noticed, diagnose it is up here somewhere around the much too high. Yeah, so make sure you're exactly halfway down that hip bone there. Okay, and if you like a copy of this chart, you notice I've annotated it with right, left, right. That's the choreography that Pauline Sasaki and I worked out of how to palpate the hara. So you put your right hand on the heart, left hand on gallbladder, right hand on stomach, and you alternate the hands as you go round. Okay, so that's the first step, locating the zones. And here's a clip from the video. I think that's you, Zahara, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a clip in the video on module 4, which we've opened up for the trial, free trial, so you can check it out for free later on. We'll give you a link to that. You'll see me locating the areas. Okay. Okay.
Noises
Should be able
off,
to.
it's called in Shakespeare.
What's that?
Noises off.
Yeah.
There's a few little funny sounds. There's a couple of people who have got no visuals. I don't know if you've seen those questions.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, I can't really understand why that would be happening because it's broadcasting fine here. You can see it, can you, Dana?
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
good.
The only thing I can suggest is if you're having problems is just to log out and then log back in again and start again, and then you might have more luck. That's my only thing I can suggest, really, because the visuals are broadcasting fine here, unless they're hidden underneath another window. So just make sure you close out all your windows and make sure it's not hidden under something else. Yeah.
Yeah, there are 3 people struggling.
Yeah. It's actually broadcasting fine here, so it must be a local
Yep, it looks fine
issue.
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really sorry, people.
Yeah, really sorry. I'd log out and log back in again. Okay, now here we are, palpating for Kyo and Jitsu qualities. Look, here's I think I've done a bigger one next. Let's just see. Yeah, there we are. I've expanded it out. This is actually an original. If you haven't seen this before, this is an original Masunaga chart from the 1970s when he did a lot of famous workshops for Ohashi in the Ohashi school. And this is an amazing diagram of the different types of Kyo. And you notice he basically describes it as a dip. The Kyo is a dip. You can see the arrow there. But he actually says like a plank or a board, which is this more solid feeling here, and then a weakness underneath. Basically what he's done is just to kind of describe the different types of Kyo areas that you're going to feel. This one says asthenia, which means kind of like numb, inelastic, and then atrophy and hard here. So it's a similar kind of hard feeling as we had up here, but it's gone deeper in. And here's another one where there's a defensive layer and there's inflammation underneath. So Kyo's a kind of combination of softness and some defense and blockages there. And here's an interesting thing here. Whoop, let's just go back. Yeah, this is an interesting link with the Chinese letter, because you can see this here. Look, this is the character which shows a concave top of a hill, which I think is really interesting because it's not like Kyo's nothing. It's not like nothing's there, but what it is it's something that's kind of hidden. Okay, and in contrast with Jitsu, what basically happens is the more Jitsu it gets, the more elastic, the more stiff, and the more it's convex. So we have this type of pushing out in comparison to this resisting, softness and then resisting. Okay, and this is the Chinese character, which means a full house, basically. fullness in the house, pushing the roof off the house, swelling the walls. So this is the next step in the whole Zen Shiatsu system, is first to find locate the diagnostic areas, and then palpate for the Kyo and Jitsu qualities. Okay, here's a question about depth. I don't know if you've got anything that you might want to mention, Diana, about depth of palpation. Here's a picture of Masanaga's son doing a traditional Hara diagnosis on my Hara. So I felt what it really felt like, old style.
Well, yes, and if any of you have seen some of those videos which are available around the place on YouTube and stuff of Masanaga palpating the Hara, it's very, very deep and slow. And in fact, Michael Rose, who's a teacher in the UK who was graduated by Masanaga, described his palpation as, he said you could feel it almost through to the back of your body. Really, really physically deep, but very relaxed.
Yeah, that's the essential thing that I feel, is that it's the relaxation that creates like an expansion, what Pauline would call like an expansion in the technique. Because even though it's deep, it's not like it's contracted, and it, you know what I mean? So it still feels like you're contacting the energy of the meridian. And what Pauline did was she just lightened it up to make it easier to stay in that expansive phase, and also to take more of an emphasis into the etheric field.
But also to make it easier to not move into treatment mode. The thing is, when someone's very deeply palpating your Hara, inevitably there's a change takes place. And she was clearly developing the Hara as a diagnostic tool where you don't want to change it, you want to see what it tells you without affecting it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know how Masanaga achieved that with his deep, slow palpation. That is a mystery to me.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how you've experienced his son's palpation, which must have been very similar.
Yeah, it was. It was an interesting touch, because it was very deep, but it had a kind of emptiness to it. It had an emptiness to it that I think was an attempt to reduce the likelihood of it treating, you know what I mean? Because he kept himself very centered. And even though I would say in the photograph he looks like, especially the translators, looking, he is kind of staring down, but I didn't really get a sensation that he was really projecting much ki or really directing much energy into the area.
There is a sense of openness really in the touch, isn't there?
But
it's hard not to react when someone palpates deeply to your Hara.
It is, but it's funny because when he did it to me, I just didn't, it felt, I don't know how to describe it. It just felt, everything felt very neutral. Even though it was deep, it felt neutral. So all I can assume is that because of the centering, because of the relaxation, that expansive quality tended to balance out the contractive nature of the depth, you know. So if you've got any comments, if anyone's got a comment on how they palpate the Hara, or any questions about that, then be very pleased to hear them, and we'll get back to you on that. You can just type them in. And don't forget, you can always put your hand up if you want to say anything. We'd love to hear you if you want to say something live on the air. Okay. Look, this is one of my first attempts at doing flip chart pictures on the slides. Look, I drew them and then I scanned them in. So you get this flip chart thing going on. Okay, and so what we have here is we have the Shiatsu practitioner, that's you, palpating the Hara, and this is your image. You're looking for a Jitsu area and a Kyo area on the Hara, and the model that you're thinking about, kind of thing, is Jitsu compensating for the Kyo. So you've got this contained relationship between the Kyo and Jitsu on the Hara there, and that's where you're imaging it. And what you're looking for is you're looking for this reaction. This is a reaction between the Jitsu and the Kyo that you feel locally on the Hara, look, like that. And that's, I think, how a lot of us were originally taught how to apply the Hara diagnosis. So why don't we try, would you like to try doing that yourself? I think that would be a good idea. We'll have an exercise and just see if it's difficult to do, but let's just see how we can do. So we know where the areas are now. So if you just lean back slightly, okay.
You might need to slide your trousers down a little.
Oh dear.
If you've got a belt.
If you've got a belt, you might want to take the belt off. Yeah. Okay. So let's just see if we could. Let's just see if we can do a Kyo Jitsu reaction technique on ourselves. So the first step is to find a Jitsu area. Okay. We're going to build on this exercise later in the webinar. So let's just go round. You want to keep the. This is a good question, isn't it? Let's experiment a bit with the depth. Okay. So you want to have enough depth just to keep the contact, but keep as relaxed as you can, just so that you can feel the quality in the diagnostic areas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, I think. I'm going to go back to here, just so it remind you of this slide. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is identify to see if you can feel any Jitsu areas, maybe one or two areas that feel like this. Okay, and then if you found more than one Kyo area, we can now go on to the next stage, which is to try and feel the reaction. So we're looking for this feeling here, okay, or this is this diagram here, okay. So let's try it. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to find the most Jitsu area that you found on your Hara, hold it. So you've got one hand just on that Jitsu area. And now let's go and just test the Kyo areas on your Hara and see if you can find a connection between the two hands or a reaction in the Jitsu area. Okay, you might need to test more than one. How are you doing, Dinah? Have you got one?
Yep.
I've got one. I've got heart protected Jitsu, heart and bladder. Or I'm heart protected Jitsu, bladder Kyo. Look, we're resonating together here.
Oh, that'll be it.
Zahara?
Gallbladder and lung.
Oh, right. Zahara's gallbladder and lung. Okay, right. Okay, great. Okay, so there we are. We have the Kyo Jitsu reaction experienced on the Hara. Okay, and that's pretty much the similar kind of experience that you'll feel on your clients. So if there are any questions about that or any comments about how you normally do the Hara on your clients, it would be great to hear from you. Let's go on to the next slide here. That's what we've done. Yep. Okay. Right. So now we're going to take it one step further, which is we're going to see if we can experience a global experience of Kyo and Jitsu. Okay. Now, this is based on an expansion of our ideas of how the meridians work, and they're based on Masanaga's meridian expressions, which gives us the experience of the meridians being vibrations in the whole energetic field. So rather than thinking of them as lines or areas on the Hara, we can imagine them as being vibrations or functions throughout the whole energetic field. So there's a couple of stages that we need to go through to do this. Let me just, okay, I'm going to go back there. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is we're going to extend this exercise that we've done. So we know that we've got a couple of meridians that are reacting. In my case, it was the heart protector and the bladder. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do an exercise to see if we can connect the manifestations in the energetic field with the Hara. Okay, so to do that, we need to do a scan of our own energy field. And to do that, you need a pen and a pencil. So if you haven't already got one, if you can just go and quickly run and get a pen or pencil, that would be absolutely great. And then you can join in when we do it. Any question?
Yeah,
Have we got any questions?
question.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just answer one question while everyone runs and gets there. Yeah, when everyone gets. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, here we go, Patty. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. When you do the Hara, this is Patty's question. Okay. When you're doing the Hara diagnosis, anyone that's quite sick, say autoimmune, usually it's too much for them to palpate deeply. Yeah. Okay. So that's definitely also an issue as well, because you're going to be, yeah, if the person's very sensitive, that it's just like Dinah said originally a minute ago. If they're very sensitive, they're almost certainly going to go. You're almost certainly going to go into treatment as soon as you touch them, and that means you quite often you get this feeling where you're chasing the Hara diagnosis around the Hara, you know, like. Yes. Because it changes so fast. You think you've got it, and then the next minute it's changed to something else. So what I would normally do is I normally use like an etheric technique, which is what I did mainly when I was with Pauline, when I was in the late 80s, when I was studying with her. And what you can do then is you can literally just take your hand, you can hover it above the Hara, maybe about 3 or 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters. And then what you can do then is just scan over the Hara, and what will happen is you'll feel the shapes of the diagnostic area in your hand as you scan, and you can use that method. If you need to double check, then you can go back down onto the Hara and just use a very light touch, and you'll get all the information that you need. So that's what I'd recommend to do that. Anything to add, Diana?
Yeah, the thing is that the deep style of palpation is not the one that we use anyway, following the lineage of Pauline and your development. We do use a light touch, as Patty uses, and if you bring in the philosophy, if you like, of what is a meridian, what are you doing when you palpate your Hara, palpate the Hara, if you're actually tuning into a vibrational quality that is in the whole energetic field, you're not really focusing in on the abdominal area at all. You're actually connecting out into the field, into that vibrational quality that's everywhere, in every cell of their body, but also out into their whole ki field. And that automatically makes the touch more light and expanded and less likely to feel uncomfortable or intrusive to the receiver.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's it. Yeah. And we're going to practice that as part of a structured exercise in a minute. But we've got one more question before we do that. That's from Jen Lowe, which is, they say, I don't understand what you mean by the reaction between the Jitsu and the Kyo occurring on the Hara. Do you mean that the Jitsu becomes softer and the Kyo becomes more resilient, or something? Basically, yes. That's the answer. What the classic reaction that you'll get, and I'll just do it on myself just to make sure it works, is if you hold the Jitsu and you go into the Kyo, the most classic reaction, which is what's happening to me now, is the Jitsu will just start to kind of relax and calm down. Sometimes you feel a kind of like a blip, where just as it reacts, it kind of just goes a little bit more Jitsu as it kind of wakes up, kind of thing. But the typical reaction is one of the Jitsu changing, and that's how we normally do it. Because just to make it clear, what happens when you do the Kyo Jitsu reaction technique, the listening hand that's holding the Jitsu, that's in a pure listening mode. So you're keeping it as relaxed as you can. You're just making enough contact to keep connection. And then as you go into the Kyo area to test it, that goes into like a mini treatment. So you've got a little bit more intention in that Kyo area. That makes it a bit more difficult to feel what's happening in the Kyo area. So we tend to tune into the Jitsu as a kind of messenger or an indicator of the reaction. Okay, so that's how the technique works.
those were the terms that Masunaga used, weren't they? I believe messenger and need. So
Exactly.
the Kyo represents the underlying need, and the Jitsu the messenger. So you're contacting that Jitsu feeling that represents the messenger, saying, hey, something's not happy here, something needs attention here. And then with the other hand, going briefly into treatment mode, contacting the Kyo, the underlying need, saying, okay, if I address this need, does the messenger relax, stop shouting, stop calling out its message?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
So then, as you've said, Jenlo, there's a softening, or sometimes people just feel it as a sense of connection and something changing. It doesn't have to be very tangible. If you see
No,
what I mean.
it can be quite a subtle thing. It can be quite a subtle
Yeah.
experience of the two hands connection. That's this arrow here. I'm just gone back a couple of slides. This arrow here is that connection. But sometimes it can be very dramatic. I mean, if you think that you stimulate this area here, then this Jitsu area here can sometimes very dramatically change. It all depends a bit on the magnitude of the distortion that you're tuning into. Sometimes it's a bigger effect than others, depending on the person. So yeah, cool. Okay, great. So let's just go forwards back to where we were. Okay.
Let's go global.
Let's go global, yeah. Global, right. Okay, cool. All right, so now there's a couple of stages that we need to do here. So let's do first of all, let's just first of all find something that we're interested in, okay, which means some kind of manifestation in our energy field. It could be a symptom, it could be a stiffness, a pain or discomfort, or it could be an emotional feeling or anything really, but something that we want to get information about, okay? So I'm going to stand up for this. I'm going to get you to stand up. If you just stand up and shake out. I can hear you shaking, Dinah.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes and we're going to scan through our body, through our energy, starting from above our heads, and we're just going to slowly scan down. This is like the photocopier method, I call it, by just going through the body like this. And we're just going to see if there's any strong manifestations that we can feel in our energy field. So let's do that. Any blockages, any areas of tightness, any pain, feelings of weakness, anything like that. So go down through our neck, through our shoulders, through the chest, through the abdomen, down the arms, okay, down through the hips and the legs and into the feet. Okay, so now just relax, think back to that experience and just pick one thing you're interested in, one kind of blockage, or it might be any kind of sensation in your energy field, okay? And I'd like you to just get your piece of paper and just make a sketch, taking up about half of the paper. Of your energy, what your energy felt like. You can draw it in. Okay. Right. Okay, so there we are. Okay, ready? So now we've got at least one thing that we'd like to test out to see what's happening energetically. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to check to see what the resonances are between the hara and that manifestation, whatever it is, okay? And we're going to do it like this. I'm going to talk you through the whole exercise. So if you'd like to sit down again, lean back slightly so you can work on your hara again. Okay. And what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and tune into your energy field again. And this time just focus in on that one area you're interested in, that area of blockage or whatever it happens to be. So internally checking that. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to see if we can, yeah, there we are. I'm just putting the exercise up. What we're going to do now is we're going to see if we can find a resonance between the hara area and that manifestation. The first place to look are the meridians that we found earlier, but you might find other meridians are involved. So let's just see. Okay, so we're going to relax. We're going to tune into that one area. We're going to go back to the diagnostic areas that we picked the first time and just check them first of all. And so what I'd like you to do now is just gently press in and go into kind of like a treatment on the Jitsu area and see what kind of resonance or connection you get with the manifestation you felt in your energy field and that diagnostic area. Just see what that feels like. Are you getting any reactions anywhere else in your body? Can you feel any movements of energy? Okay, and then we're just going to relax. Just remember that feeling. And now we're going to go to the Kyo area that you felt before when we did the Hara diagnosis. And let's see if we get a different type of feeling of connection between that diagnostic area and the area that you can feel of manifestation. Okay, so first of all, again, we're tuning into that block that you can feel somewhere in your body. And now we're going to find the diagnostic area. And we're going to gently treat that area, pressing in. See if you get a different sensation in your whole energy field. And particularly see if you get a different resonance in that area of manifestation. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take your pencil again, go back to your drawing. And what we'll do is one of the best ways to do this is to draw a couple of boxes underneath your main diagram. Draw a picture of the hara in each one. Or just draw like 4 lines to represent the hips and the rib cage. Okay, and then thinking about the Jitsu meridian vibration that you felt, just draw a picture of how that resonated out into your body and how it resonated with that area that you chose to target in on. Okay, and then once you've drawn that Jitsu one, go into the other box and draw a picture of how the Kyo meridian resonated with your body and with that manifestation. You might find that you've got resonances in different parts of your body. You may feel you've got a different quality of resonance. One was stronger than the other, and that's all really useful information.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, good. So any questions or comments,
exciting.
just put them in. And so this is the exercise that I've just put up on the slides there. Okay, so just see how you got on with that. I'm just going to, yeah, okay, this is the slide that represents that. This will be what it will be like when you do the same exercise on your clients. You can imagine that the diagnostic areas are like windows into the energetic field. So what we're doing is, rather than, as Dinah mentioned earlier, rather than thinking about connecting the areas, what we're doing is we're expanding our awareness, just like we did in that exercise, so that we feel the meridians more as vibrations in the field. So what I've done here is I've put the Jitsu in red and the Kyo in blue. It's a kind of typical thing that you might feel.
It does look a little bit like a road traffic accident.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. I think it's me. I think that's my heart protector there.
Yeah.
And that's my bladder meridian.
Bladder, yeah.
But you notice also the other interesting thing about this is that quite often, and this is something you'll feel when you start getting more into the vibration of the meridians, is that you feel more than one meridian resonating in the same space, and that's links with what Dinah said earlier, in terms of the meridians being holographic structures. So it's not like they're just confined to just the lines and the areas. They kind of overlap each other, and that means that you can have more than one meridian resonating with one place. And what that does is it gives you an energetic way of linking the Hara diagnosis with the wider field and with symptoms, because what you can do is you can do, as we just did in that exercise on ourselves, you can directly feel the meridian resonance with any symptoms that you can feel out in the energetic field. So if you've got any questions or comments, let's see what we've got here. Oh yeah, here, okay. Right, here we go. Right, do you always keep the right hand as the listing hand, or do you switch backwards and forth when you do the Hara diagnosis? Well, you can do either. Yeah, no, you can do it either way. It doesn't matter. No, it's just really to do with your perception. Really, it's just the different roles that the hand has. So yeah, cool. Okay, great. So I hope you enjoyed that exercise. It's quite interesting doing it on yourself, as opposed to, but it's a similar experience that you'll get when you work on your clients. Whoa, okay, let's just go down one step at a time.
There's a hand up, I see, Maria.
Oh, is there? Oh, great. Let's have a look. Well spotted.
I can't say her surname, though. Myriokephalite. Litaki.
Oh yeah, Maria. Yes. Okay. I wonder if is it an accident, or does she really want to speak to us? It's an accident.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Maria.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's Michelle as well. Michelle's got a hand up. No, you sorted that one out as well. Sorry, I'm taking Zahra's job away from her. Sorry, I'm doing too many things at once here. Sorry, yeah. Okay, I get back to the slides. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here's a review of what we've done in this webinar, what we covered in this webinar. We've got the original Hara diagnosis was developed by Masunaga. That originally involved palpating the diagnostic areas with a deep touch. Pauline, because she was influenced by the work of Kishi, changed the touch into a light touch. Subsequent developments, once we started to understand that you could directly experience the meridians as vibrations in the field, and that directly links with Masunaga's work on the meridian expressions. The meridian expressions give us a direct experience of the meridians in the whole field. So for example, when we do the lung position, which is taking a deep breath, and we open up into the position, we can feel the lung action or vibration in the whole body. So one of the things that we did in order to make the Zen Shiatsu system more coherent was change the perception of the meridians as we work them to more of a whole field perception. Okay, and once we do that, then we open up the possibility to feel the Kyo Jitsu reaction in the field rather than in just the diagnostic areas. And that's quite a big development in the whole Shiatsu touch thing that's happened in the last 20 years or something like that in Shiatsu technique. Okay, so if you've got any questions or comments about that, that would be most welcome. Otherwise, I'll. So have you got anything
My God,
to add
it's
to that?
20 past 8.
I know.
No, I haven't really. I was just noticing how time has flown.
It always goes quickly when you start doing exercises. That's the thing. Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, if you've got any more questions or comments, then please just let me know. Otherwise, I'll just finish up the webinar. I'll just go through and I'll show you where this material came from and how it fits in with all the other stuff we're doing. 2001, we did the first online seminar with Pauline Sasaki, which is still really worth reading. I mean, it's very long and there's loads of material in there, and we've got links to it from our website if you want to have a look at it. And we started doing online courses in 2007, and this webinar is part of our online project. We've had really good feedback as well from our online courses. So we've got completely new online courses now. We just launched the first one 6 or 7 weeks ago. We've got lots of high quality videos, especially some of them featuring Zahara. We've got loads more resources. We've got presentations and audio, and they're much longer than the ones we used to do. And you can access them on your phone or tablet. And a big difference from the ones we used to do, which were 5 weeks long and they used to finish and that was it, the end of it. You have lifetime access at the end of the course, and you can take as long as you like to do the course. So it's much more like a publishing thing. It's much more like getting a box of DVDs or a book or something. And also, as we upgrade it, which we're doing all the time because we're getting feedback, so it's more like an ongoing kind of vibe thing, then you get free upgrades. So you can go back and look at anything that we've tried to improve or anything like that. Okay, this is a typical module. This is module 1. So we do an overview presentation. We've got in text and also me talking you through the module. We've got a video tutorial with various members of the team, where we kind of try and figure things out in a kind of tutorial setting that you can join in on. And we've sometimes got an audio exercise and a presentation about the history of the topic. And the thing that's probably one of the most active things in the course is the discussion zones, and they've been really rocking, really very active, where everyone's been sharing what their experience are of the work. And there's a kind of fun thing at the end, which is like a quiz, so you can test your knowledge of each module at the end. And that's really good fun too. So that's what a typical module looks like. It's 7 modules and here they are. There's module 4, that's the Hara diagnosis one, that's the one we've been talking about this evening. And that's part of, leading up to that, we have contraction and expansion, Kyo and Jitsu, accessing the field. So you can see how they build up to this module 4. And then we've got one on the channels, one on the subos, one on the resonance, and then we've got a whole treatment with you, Dinah. A video, 45-minute treatment, putting all of these different techniques into action. Yep. So
it's rather a long time ago. I've forgotten it now. But...
that's it. And here's Zahara, by the way. Look, being did you see that? That was that's a tutorial with Zahara. You can see she's asking questions or we're talking about something. In fact, that looks very much like a meridian scan there. Look on that chart there. Yeah. So it's a similar kind of thing that we've just done, but it was obviously we're working in a pair. So that's it. So this is the Hara diagnosis module, and that's a clip from the video of the module. And then at the end, look, this is me treating Dinah. And what I did is
demanding client. Nothing but
do look like demanding there. Look, especially that first picture.
Yeah. What about me?
That's what it's saying, isn't it? I do look very concerned, though, and very interested.
Oh, you do.
I do. So I go through the whole thing, how to answer questions. I do the Hara diagnosis, as you can see, just like we've been talking about this evening. And then I do a complete full treatment and get feedback on it. So we put that at the end just to tie everything up. Okay, we've got this really cool closed Facebook group if you do join the course, which is again very, very active. It's just exclusively for people who are on the course so that you can exchange with each other and socially get to know each other. Also, we're planning a residential in 2011, so you'll get 2018. What I was saying, 2018. So if you're interested in meeting us face to face, then we'll give you priority booking on that. And we're also going to be doing some exclusive webinars early next year with the team for those of you on the course, so we can focus in more on your actual questions and stuff. Okay, so just to give you an idea, we've now, because we're at the end of the 7-week process, we've now opened it up for instant access. So you can get instant access to all of the modules now. We reckon it'll take you about 8 weeks to work through it. We're estimating 35 notional hours, which is about, well, it's more than 2 weekend workshops. But if you want to just have a look at the free trial, you can do that. Check it out. And of course, if you don't like it at any time, we'll always give you a refund, so you can, leave if you like.
And I think there's a special offer, isn't there, for people who are here on the webinar?
There is. Right, just getting to that. Yeah, exactly. Because we love you so much for coming on our webinar, taking your time out, and we'd love to see you on the course. We're going to give you €100 off the course for 1 week. It ends on Monday, November the 21st. So I reckon I would be very, very lucky to teach all of that material of that course in 2 weekends. But if I did, it probably cost you about €1,000 by the time you've attended a couple of weekends and travelled and all the rest of it. So we priced it up at $299 for the course, and that includes all the things you wouldn't get if you did it in a workshop, which is lifetime access to the material, so you can go back over it again and again, ongoing support through the forums, free upgrades, and access to the Facebook group. So there's lots of other bonuses to doing it online. So if you
other great thing,
I
think it's worth just saying that say you've done one of the lessons, then you could take as long as you like to then just go away and practice that with your clients for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, before you come back in again and pick up the next thread.
That's
see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, unlike going to a workshop where it's like you've got to get it all there and then.
That's right.
Now
yes.
You have the opportunity to, do a session on Hara diagnosis or do a session on Tsubos, and then spend as long as you like, weeks, practicing that with your clients.
Exactly.
And connecting with your peers through the Facebook group, through the discussion forums, and learning from each other, sharing your experiences and so on. And it's like a rolling program of learning. So it's brilliant, really.
It does work very, very well. Yeah, we've had some fantastic reviews so far, and we're constantly working to try and make it better. So if you can't wait until tomorrow, you could just go straight on to New Energy Work, click on the free trial, and then you can just add webinar 100, which is a coupon code, and you can get €100 discount off. And to make it easy for you, if you can wait until tomorrow, when we send you the follow-up email to this webinar, then we'll send you a direct link. It'll take you straight into that discount. Okay, so here we go. So let's just go back a bit. So if you want to find it, just go to New Energy Work and it says free trial of the new online course. You can click there and you go straight to it. And you can use your webinar 100 discount code if you want to join immediately. And you can just have a look at the free trial. The whole of module 4 I've opened that up on the free trial, so you'll see what kind of how it works as a module on the online course. And tomorrow we'll send you a direct link. We've got
one rather interesting question just before we go.
Yeah, let's see.
From Ralph. Hi, Ralph.
Okay, yeah, Ralph. Okay, let's see. When viewing a meridian scan for key stagnation blockages, when they appear in an area where the meridians do not run, how do you treat that area? That's a great question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, excellent. Okay. Well, there's two answers to that. First of all, we tend to work the Kyo Jitsu method during the treatment. Okay, so let's say you've got a liver key stagnation thing going on, and it's actually right in the middle of the sternum, say. Okay, so it's not really near the liver meridian. And say you've got, I don't know, triple heater Kyo or something like that. Then what you'd do is you'd hold the mother hand on the Jitsu area, and then you'd treat the triple heater meridian, and you'd feel the reaction just the same as on the Hara, and that's how you work it. So that's one answer to it. And the other answer is that what will happen as you get more into the vibration of the meridians is you start to become much looser about the location of the channels and their relationship to the meridian vibrations.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take another example. Like sometimes what you'll often get is you'll get, say, liver key stagnation, and it'll affect the whole of the thoracic area. So you'll get all the ribs will jam up and all that kind of thing. Now, if you want to work it directly, then what we can do is we can actually work the meridian vibration, the actual feeling, and not worry so much about restricting ourselves to the channel. And that's in reality how you'll find yourself working the more you get into working the meridian vibration. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Dinah, for you?
No, that's pretty much what I was thinking of when you were talking about using the Kyo Jitsu relationship. With that example you gave, contact that blocked feeling in the sternum, and while working your Kyo, what was it, triple heater, looking for tsubos, looking for places where you feel a change in the blocked area as you go, kind of thing. But as Cliff said, as with practice and over time, you're because we're starting to look now at the meridians not just as channels, but as a vibrational quality related to the function, but actually everywhere in the whole key field, you can work with that feeling wherever it is. Doesn't have to be on the meridian.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Okay, we're a little bit over time, but I'm going to answer this one question because it's a really interesting one. It's Jen Lowe back again, and he or she is just wondering about whether we go back to basics in explaining the feeling of Kyo and Jitsu. And we do. We go right back to the very beginning basics of how to do it, and we build up from it slowly, because they've said that they feel like they don't really know what they're feeling anything. When I do it, it seems like it's the same on everyone, i.e. the upper Jitsu is upper and the Kyo is lower regions of the Hara. And this always makes me feel that what I feel is more due to the underlying anatomy rather than anything else. Okay, so the way to get out of the underlying anatomy and into the vibration is all through the techniques. It's concentrating on the diagnostic areas, but the main thing is the balance of the contraction and expansion in your technique, and we spend an entire module on that. Module one, as you'll see on the course, is entirely devoted to contraction and expansion, and that's the key to feeling the meridians rather than the anatomy.
The anatomy, the belly, yeah.
Okay, Patty, who's attended other courses with us in the old format, says, "Love this. Are all the online courses like this format?" She says, and the answer is they will be when we've done them. But it took us a year to record the video and edit the video of the foundations course. It's taken us a year to do that. We're hoping to get faster, and we're hoping eventually to get we're hoping to get them all the material up, but it's going to probably take us, I reckon, probably about 5 years or something like that. So we're just starting out. We have to get. And she also asked, is there a set schedule every week with the group, or is it self-study? Okay, what we've done with these new format ones is we've done a completely different delivery. They're all completely self-paced, which means that you can take as long as you like. It's more like a publishing thing rather than a structured thing that ends after 5 weeks, because we want to reach more people and we want to bring more people into the community. So what we're finding is people go in and out, but the forums are still rocking. There's always going to be someone there to help you wherever you are. You can take as long as you like. You don't feel the pressure of having to finish everything after 5 weeks, which is what used to happen before. And it's also means that we can upgrade the course with feedback, and we can just basically try and make it better and clearer as we go. So it's kind of like a joint project between us and all the people involved, really, rather than just a one-off delivery kind of thing. That's what it feels like. Okay, we really must go because we're 5 minutes over. That's
Crikey.
Yeah, we're way over. That's unheard of. We don't normally do that.
Yeah.
So let me just see if there's any.
That's thanks to Ralph's interesting question.
Yeah, because we have some great questions for me. And look, you'll see that this is what it looks like when you go there. It looks like this. And you can try the free trial. And if you follow the link tomorrow, that'll automatically take that €100 off the price for you. Okay. So yeah, that's it. And that's it. That's the final slide. Sorry to go over.
I'm
If you've got to,
waving.
yep, I've got to go home for my dinner now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waving.
I've got to
waving
finish
too.
cooking mine, and I'm waving. Bye, everybody.
Yeah,
Lovely
thanks.
to be with you.
Thank you very much for taking the time, and we'll see you on the next webinar, if not face to face. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.